Greetings, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks again for joining us for our webinar series. We've got the great pleasure of bringing you a focus on a very important part of destination marketing and of the travel and tourism industry. We're looking today at the future of meetings, and in particular what that means for destination marketing organizations. So I'm delighted to be joined by both Erin Francis Cummings, who I'll introduce in a moment, and also a colleague of mine, Randy Rogers. So Erin, are you back at your base in San Francisco?
I am, Chris. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
So Erin, a very familiar voice to many of you I know who've joined us before. We've got over 250 different organizations, DMOs, hotels who are joining us today from both US and abroad. My name's Chris Adams. I look after research and insight at Miles, and we're delighted to be joined by a very good colleague of mine, Randy Rogers, who's the account director at Miles, who was, from our side, managing this whole process with Erin and the team at Destination Analysts. And so, Randy, do you want to just give a little bit of background on why we thought this was a critical area to focus on?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, essentially, Miles works with a lot of different meetings destinations, everything from asset creation all the way through full campaign and media planning. So in that regard, it's really critical that we understand planners so that we can be good partners with our clients. What we noticed as we kind of pour through research over the years is that there wasn't a lack of available research, but there was definitely a gap specifically to where and how destinations play a role in the planning process. So essentially, we decided to take that on ourselves. We approached Erin, who works with a lot of the same destinations, and she thought it was a great idea. So we decided to kind of partner on the project and take it from there.
And we want to give a particular call out to Destinations International, who were a key supporter through the process and will also be a supporter moving forward. So the research that we're going to be referencing today is available at these web addresses you can see up on the screen. And that is a detailed 42-page summary. I think everybody's pretty familiar with webinars. Please ask questions, and we'll come back to those at the end. And we'll also have a brief summary of innovation in the meeting space and a brief summary of next steps in the research for 2018.
Sorry, Chris, your menu is showing up on the broadcast. Do you want to just collapse that?
Yes. Okay. Let me just pass it over directly to Erin, and we can go through the research.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Let's jump right in here to the research findings. Before that, though, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Destination Analysts, we are a full-service market research company that serves the travel, tourism, and hospitality industries. And we've had the great pleasure to get to work with over 140 DMOs, both on their consumer research and, very importantly, on their research of their critical clients, which are meeting planners. The research that I'll be sharing with you today was part of a larger study that included a survey and in-depth interviews of DMO meetings professionals and in-depth interviews of meeting planners. But the bulk of what I'll be sharing with you today comes from this survey of meeting planners that we conducted. And we surveyed and bought 569 completed surveys of meeting planners across types and industries. And I'd like to again take the opportunity to thank Destinations International for their partnership on this study, helping get this project off the ground. It's something Chris Adams and Randy and I have been wanting to do for such a long time, and their partnership helped make it happen. And then to my friends at Miles, Randy and Chris, obviously in particular, for getting this research out to the industry. From the response that we've gotten so far, we see that Randy's intuition that it was really necessary to look into these topics was absolutely right on. So today we're going to be focusing on deepening your understanding of your audience if you're a DMO meetings professional. And the audience being the meeting planner. So really looking at meeting planner pain points, their challenges, their sentiments about the future, and then the current and ideal role of the DMO from their perspective and their expectations of DMOs. So we can deeply understand our customers, we can sell to them and service them better. And then I'll wrap up with some new ideas that meeting planners have about services and products that they think DMOs can innovate with. So the profile of the meeting planners that are in this study, they are largely plan meetings exclusively for the business entity by which they're employed. About a quarter of our sample, though, were third-party planners. Then they also, in terms of deciding where to hold their meetings, that's often a shared decision, although 1 in 10 are the sole decision maker for the destination choice. We had a range of different types of meetings business represented by the planners in our study: corporate, associations, SMERF, etc. And they also represented planning meetings for a variety of different industries as well, from advertising and technology to medical, financial, and education. They also represent a range of experience and types of meetings, from annual meetings to board meetings and to consumer shows and product reveals. And they also represented different variety of meeting size types and room blocks. So, but interestingly, what is important about the chart you're seeing right now is there's a lot of experience amongst the meeting planner community in those smaller meetings. So 2/3 typically plan meetings with 100 peak room nights or less. There's less common experience in those big citywide type of conventions with thousands of rooms being used on peak. We asked the question of how much of their room, what they blocked off for rooms in terms of % of their total attendance, and typically above 50% of block rooms by their expected attendance. So one thing that was on people's minds, particularly when we were writing this survey last year, was the potential impact of Airbnb. And we really wanted to take a benchmark on that at that point and continue to track it over time. So in 2017, when we did this survey, we asked meeting planners if they had worked with Airbnb. And at that time, just 1.4% had actually worked directly with Airbnb on housing solutions. 1.6% had promoted Airbnb as a housing option, but did not directly work with the company. So its penetration amongst meeting planners at that point was about 3%. Okay, so it had not yet gained significant traction. However, when we asked about their likelihood to use Airbnb as a housing solution looking forward the next 2 years, 1 in 10 felt that they were likely or very likely. So there is some gains, and again, that's something that we'll track in the research in the coming year. Association planners and those that plan citywide conventions are the likeliest to have used or considered Airbnb as a housing solution. In terms of their opinions about DMO's partnerships with Airbnb, we asked them to agree, to rate their level of agreement about this statement that CBeebies or DMOs should have a partnership or strong relationship with Airbnb. And over a quarter of meeting planners agreed or strongly agreed that CBeebies should have a partnership or relationship with Airbnb. All right, so let's now look into how meeting planners measure their success. And the reason that we wanted to include this set of questions was we felt that for our DMO professionals that sell to these people, if they understand how the meeting planner is actually measuring their own success, the DMO would have insight into how they can help them get towards that success better and then be an even more integral part of their process. So attendee satisfaction came out as #1 across all meeting planners as their measurement of success. So a satisfaction first, and then of course for their third-party planners are client satisfaction. But then the second layer of how they measure their meeting success has to do around budget, staying within budget and profitability. So we see satisfaction be top, and then that second layer of staying within budget. So if we look by planner type, our corporate planners, their attendee satisfaction and achieving their meeting goals is paramount to them. Staying within budget comes there down at #5. Again, that a second tier measurement of success after attendee satisfaction and achieving their goals. With our third-party planners, of course, their client satisfaction is top to them, followed by attendee satisfaction, and then the cost savings negotiated there coming in as that, again, that second tier measurement. With our association planners, they need a volume. They want to them, success is on the number of registrations, closely followed by attendee satisfaction, and then, of course, cost too. And then for our SMERF planners, attendee satisfaction and the number of registrations is also important for them, so similar to our association planners. And then we see this play out in how they rate the importance of attributes in the destinations that they look at for hosting their meetings. And so we ask them to rate the importance of various destination attributes in determining where they hold their meetings. And we see that geographic location as top, followed by hotel quality, then meetings, facilities, hotel rates, and overall costs. If we look at this by planner type, we see that a geographic location is top across different planner types. For our corporate planner, hotel quality is close behind. And then cost down there at 4 and 5. And our association planner, hotel rates is top there after geographic location. For our SMERF planners, the meeting facilities. And then interestingly, if we look at that second tier, so they're not the most paramount things in what meeting planners are evaluating, but they are an important second layer. We see that these things all relate back to the attendee satisfaction metric that they're looking to achieve, right? So they're looking for safe environment for their attendees. So say 84.1% rated that as important or very important to them, that they had a good past experience in that destination so that they can trust that that destination is going to deliver a satisfactory experience to their attendees and their clients. Popularity with attendees, that's going to be a place that'll make people happy, that people will be excited to go to. Destination amenities, airport facilities and lift, and then client preference. So again, we see these as things that all relate back to how they're measuring their success on attendee satisfaction. Interestingly, though, when we survey DMO sales meetings, sales and services professionals, they are less likely to say that their destination's hotel rates and hotel quality are the top attributes that they sell, even though those things, as you saw, were really, really critical to meeting planners in how they evaluate a destination. On the DMO side, their top challenges were an uncooperative and poorly communicating hotel community. And that really was expressed a lot in the research with that group. Looking at the challenges that meeting planners face, and again, this is important to examine so that DMOs can see how they can help and ameliorate those challenges for these important clients. While attendee satisfaction was top as a success metric and cost was that second tier one, in terms of their challenges, cost really rises up to the top, so they switch places. So satisfaction we have here as the second layer, but really budget and negotiating cost savings were the top challenges they face, and this was across planner types. And we see this, this challenge come up in why they pass on a destination that they were seriously considering. expensive hotel rates, and the overall cost of that destination were the top two reasons that meeting planners gave for why they passed on a destination that they were seriously considering. And having the opportunity to work with so many DMOs, I know that I think this is illuminating because this is an opportunity for how you present your destination. So meeting planners are really evaluating the overall cost of your destination, not just the hotel rate that your partner hotels are going to provide for the meeting, but how much their attendees are going to have to pay to go out to dinner or to shop, or a myriad of other things that they're thinking about. And so providing them the information on the overall cost of your destination may go a long way in helping you sell your destination to them better. And if we look at this by type of planners, so we see again the cost comes across planners. So for corporate planners, expensive hotel rates and the overall costs of the destination were top reasons for why they passed. Same with our third-party planners. Excuse me, I wanted to go back on the corporate planners. So the airport facilities also was top for them too. They're looking for more, the ability of more direct flight service. And then same here for our association planners, the expensive hotel rates and the overall cost of the destination were top reasons for passing on a destination. So looking ahead to the future, we asked meeting planners what their feelings were about expected changes in the meetings industry over the next 5 years. And then had them think about it and how they expected certain factors related to the meetings industry to change, if at all. So what you're looking at over on the left are the top 3 factors that meeting planners felt were going to get better in the next few years. And what you're looking over on the right were the top factors that meeting planners felt were going to get worse in the next few years. And so they're feeling positive about the development of convention centers. They're feeling optimistic about attendance figures at meetings, which is great for all of us in the industry that, you know, again, they're feeling the bullish that people will continue to come to meetings. And they're also feeling good about the improvement of airlift and air service and direct flights to destinations that they may want to go to. In terms of the things that they feel are going to get worse for them and the industry overall, unfortunately, they're feeling that clients' meetings budgets are going to shrink even more. And so we saw that cost is already such a challenge for them. They think it's going to get worse. And then the impact of hotel brand consolidation and mergers and meeting planners' ability to negotiate with hotels, those are also going to get worse. And those last 2 things really kind of part of the same picture there. Association planners are the most optimistic about the development of convention centers and increased airlift, but they feel they're going to be most negatively impacted by hotel mergers and their own meetings budget. They're relatively split as to whether attendance at meetings will increase or decrease as well. So association planners were not as optimistic about increases compared to other planners. Our corporate planners, though, are optimistic about attendance in convention centers, but they're most concerned that their ability to negotiate with hotels is going to worsen in the future. To look more deeply into the expected impact of mergers and acquisitions, we asked about how they felt they were going to get impacted in an open-ended format to just share their thoughts. And mainly their descriptions were that they were just going to have a weaker bargaining position, that these mergers were going to make it have the less ability to negotiate and get acceptable concessions for their meetings. So that's their mindset around that. All right, so the meeting planner and the DMO. Largely meeting planners are aware of DMOs, although we found from this research that they still call them Convention and Visitors Bureaus. So for the remainder of the presentation, I will also refer to DMOs as Convention and Visitors Bureaus. So of the 569 meeting planners that we surveyed across industries and meeting planner types, 95.6% of them had heard of a Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they still call them Convention and Visitors Bureau. The DMO acronym has not taken off so much amongst meeting planners. They are largely familiar with DMOs, with our, our CBBs, our third-party planners showing them being the most familiar. So what you're looking at is the percent of meeting planners surveyed that said they were very familiar with convention and visitors bureaus, and almost 6 in 10 third-party planners said they were very familiar with convention and visitors bureaus, over half of association planners. But even over a third of corporate planners said they were very familiar with convention and visitors bureaus. And they're using convention and visitors bureaus. So we asked them about the number they had contacted in the past year. And on the typical meeting planner had contacted 5.5 convention and visitors bureaus in the past 12 months, with the highest number amongst third-party planners. And then our association and SMERF planners just under 5. Their corporate planners, the least number of convention and visitors bureaus contacted in a year on average. And convention and visitors bureaus, we found from this research, do play a vital role in meeting planners, just day-to-day practices. And in terms of destination research, we asked them what they typically do. And while their own experience planning and their word of mouth, so what they hear from their colleagues and other planners and other industry types, those are the top sources for their destination research. But look at 3, 4, and 5 here that came out. Those are all related to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So almost half said that their contacts at the Convention and Visitors Bureau were some source that they regularly went to for researching destinations. CBB hosted events right underneath that. And then the CBB website, 44.1% said that CBB website was a source they typically went to for destination research. If we look by planner type, see some interesting ways that the CBB is important to them in their destination research practice. So for our corporate planners, the CBB hosted event is the third most common resource they go to for their destination research practice. And so I've been making a joke that next time you get questioned about how much money you're spending hosting planners, you can show them this piece of data right here. It really does play an important role in their destination consideration and research process. Over on the third-party planner side, those hosted events are also very important for them, as well as their contacts at the CBB. So all that effort that CBB salespeople put into those relationships, it does pay off. The third-party planners are very likely to just rely on their contacts for that destination research. For association planners, same, their contacts at the CBB, also CBB hosted events, as well as the websites, also a common part of their destination research practice. And we see for our SMERF planners, the CBB website is number 1 for them, actually, and then number 4 are their contacts at the CBB. So we see that CBBs have a high degree of awareness, a good degree of familiarity, although this is the point where Randy usually jumps in and says, Erin, no, we can do so much better. So certainly there is opportunity for CBBs to do better in terms of familiarity and awareness. But getting into opportunities, this is a point where I want to show there is significant, the research showed that there is significant opportunity for CBBs to educate planners and become more an important part of the process and have more of a seat at the table. So we asked an open-ended question to these meeting planners, asking them to describe the purpose of convention and visitors bureaus. And we looked at all these responses and then coded them for you so you have an idea of what was said. So most common responses around the, CBBs are destination experts and they have destination information. And then it was like just that they promoted their destination generally, and that they were responsible for promoting meetings in their destination. But what I want you to walk away from this is there is not a lot of very specific knowledge about what convention and visitors bureaus provide in terms of services and their role beyond just selling the meeting planner on holding their meeting there. The very more general descriptions. However, the good news is that it was largely so positive. And here are some quotes that I'll just share with you that came out that I felt was really heartwarming, because I know how hard those of you on the DMO side work in the sales and services part. So very positive descriptions about CBeebies and valuing the relationships they have. So the CBB is clearly seen, as I showed you, as the destination expert. Okay, so we asked them to evaluate their agreement with the statement that the CBB is the most expert resource on the destination. And across the board, there's agreement with that statement, with 46.4% of meeting planners strongly agreeing with this statement, another over a third agreeing. When we asked again another open-ended question, how they would describe the CBB's role in the meetings process, a lot of it was around that sense that you're the expert. The CBB is the expert, and then therefore can be this one-stop shop. Again, there is not a large number of meeting planners describing the more specific services and values that the CBB provides to them. And we see this play out in how they work or reach out to convention and visitors bureaus when they have had experience planning a meeting in that destination versus when they have not. So what you're looking at right now is the percent of meeting planners who on this a 10-point scale said it was important, or DMO services to a meeting were important in a destination where they had no past experience, okay? So they rated how important DMO services are in a destination, for their meeting in a destination in which they had no past experience. You see here that 78% of meeting planners rated the CBB services from either a 7 or above, 7 to 10, as being important if they had no experience in that destination. But if they have had experience in that destination, look how much that number drops. It drops down to 52.9%. So they're far less likely to think or to value DMO services if they've already had experience in that destination. And having spoken to so many DMO meetings professionals in my many years in the industry, I know this is not what you want. You want your meeting planners to work with you when they're holding meetings in your destinations, regardless of if they've been there before, and there's lots of many ways that you can help them. And it also is part of your overall sales process, right? So if you can ensure they have a great experience every time they're in their destination, they're more likely to come back to you. But for various reasons, the meeting planner is not seeing that they should be reaching out or can be reaching out, or that the CBB can help them if they've already had experience in the destination. I don't have the opportunity to play any videos for you today, but I do have some videos of meeting planners talking about this. And there's a common theme that we saw, which was that these meeting planners felt that CBBs were simply for sales, and that once they were sold on that destination, the CBB did not necessarily want contact with them, which we all know is not the case. Some of them even felt that. They felt like they didn't want to bother the CBB. So there's opportunities certainly to change that perspective, that you don't want to be bothered. And then also we see this in their likelihood to reach out too. So same story, we asked their likelihood to reach out to a CBB for assistance if they had no experience in the destination. 79.1% rated that on a 10-point scale, 7 or higher likelihood to reach out to DMO for or CBB when they had no experience in the destination. But if they have had experience, that number drops down to 54.1%. And again, on the point I've been making about this probably being related to that meeting planners just don't have such specific understanding still of all the different services that CBBs can provide them. We look at their awareness of all the different resources and services that CBB provide. There is a lot of awareness that CBBs provide printed destination guidebooks and offer an events calendar, a hotel directory, and they also do RFP distribution. Again, that they're destination experts. And then some, but less awareness about personalized hotel selection assistant, personalized venue selection assistant, these things that relate back to their goals and objectives of providing great attendee experience and even saving money. So we see there's lesser awareness of those. And then again, speaking to attendee satisfaction, there, not strong awareness on that CBBs provide attendance building tools and pre-post itinerary. So again, highlighting opportunity here for DMOs to educate meeting planners even more thoroughly about the amazing resources and services that they do provide these clients. So if you want to look at citywide versus citywide planners that do citywide meetings versus those that just do self-contained, we asked about the DMO resources they're likely to use for those types of meetings. So for a citywide convention or meeting, they are likely to use a lot of CBB services, welcome signage being top, but digital marketing materials, the printed guidebooks, attendee discount programs. So lots of a possibility for using CBB services for a citywide meeting. However, on the for self-contained meetings, and this is probably not a surprise to many of you CBB sales and services professionals, but the number of meeting planners that say they're likely to use any of these DMO resources drops pretty significantly for self-contained. So I think, again, kind of that theme there of, if they've had experience, or they may think they're a smaller meeting, that they don't need to reach out to the CBB, or that the CBB doesn't want them to reach out. If we look over just to bring in the perspective from DMO meetings professionals, DMO meetings professionals say the top attribute they sell about their destination is their DMO services. So something's getting lost in translation there. There may need to be a larger industry effort around this. DMO meetings professionals are more likely to be more sales focused than equally sales and services focused. However, they are anticipating that DMOs will become more service focused in the future, which is great because I think the data that I've shared with you so far really speaks to the importance of that and how services can be just a larger part of the sales process, overall sales process. All right, so how do meeting planners want to be contacted? Because we don't want these faces made when they hear from us. So email is the king amongst meeting planners in terms of how they want to be contacted by CBB sales teams. So 61.6% of them said that they preferred to get an email arranging for their contact. For one of excuse me, let me just interrupt real quick. One of my co-hosts on the webinar, you need to mute because I can hear a lot of noise. Okay, and then contacts at trade show and exhibitions, 37.7% of meeting planners said that that was a way they preferred to be solicited by CBB sales teams. So if you are getting questions about attendance at the shows, we see that they are a way that meeting planners do want to interact with you. So direct contact via telephone is not popular, neither is mail. So email arranging for their contact is the best way. And then when they want to be contacted by a DMO or a CBB, at multiple points. So over 2/3 of them said they want to be contacted by the CBB during their destination research phase. Over half of them, 56.9% of them, said they want to communicate directly with CBB sales staff when they're ready to execute their RFP. And 44.1% of them said they want to continue to be communicated with by the CBB sales staff person after they've selected their destination. There is largely agreement that CBBs are willing to go above and beyond in order to ensure a meeting or event's success. And so meeting planners do feel that CBBs have that service orientation right now. We asked them to think about the experiences that they'd had with CBBs that had been exceptional and to describe the key factors that made that experience with the CBB exceptional, and largely had to do with great customer service. Some of the other more specific things are basically nuanced versions of great customer service. So personalization, they actually paid attention to what the meeting planner wanted. And then this professionalism with that. The CBB communicated with them. They followed through and they showed this strong attention to detail. In terms of the agreement about DMO services, there's a lot of agreement. 3/4 of meeting planner surveys said that CBBs generally meet their expectations in terms of overall responsiveness. A similar number said that CBBs generally meet their expectation in terms of timely response to their questions. And at this, in 2017, 18% of meeting planners said that they desired faster service than the CBBs were currently providing. Third-party planners are actually the most likely to say they desired faster service than DMOs are currently providing. So over 1/3 of that third-party planners said they want faster service from the CBB. We asked how CBBs had failed to meet expectations in the past year. And that all largely came down to a lack of response or being slow to response, and then poor follow-up, poor customer service. Around that. So we asked specifically about what their acceptable response times are. And this is the part where it's kind of panicky for our CBB meetings professionals. But in terms of returning a phone call, almost half of meeting planners expect you to return their phone call that day, with a tiny but interesting 1.8% saying that you have 1 hour. And that's their acceptable response time, 1 hour. But largely, they want their call returned on the same day. In terms of answering their questions, 3% feel that their questions should be answered in under an hour. 40.9% of them say their questions should be answered that same day. And then 45% said within 2 days was fine. In terms of distributing their RFPs, 1 in 5 said their RFP should be distributed that day, but just under half said that within 2 days was acceptable for distributing their RFP. And then responding to the RFP, 30.6% said their max acceptable response time for getting a response to the RFP back was 2 days. But the majority all fell within the 1 week. So how do meeting planners feel about CBB's importance to the overall meetings industry? So largely they see that CBBs are important. So in total, 61.2% said that CBBs are very important to the meetings industry overall. And you see our association planners are the likeliest to say that CBBs are very important to the meetings industry, with our corporate planners the least likely, but still 44% of corporate planners said that CBBs are very important to the overall meetings industry. We asked them how they see the role of CBBs changing, if their importance was going to increase or decrease or stay the same. And almost half of meeting planners in 2017 said that CBBs were going to get more important or much more important to the meetings industry. Just 5.1% said that CBBs were going to become less important in the future. That small 5.1% of them, though, we wanted to know why they felt that CBBs were becoming or would become less important. And largely the response from those few planners was that they felt information was becoming much more readily available. So again, that speaks back to how they see you as this destination expert and the one-stop shop. And these planners were saying, well, that information that the CBB provides me is so available in all these other ways, so then they're becoming less important for me. They're no longer the gatekeeper of that information. However, on the other side, though, which was far more people, again, almost half of meeting planners felt CBBs were going to become more important. When we asked them why CBBs were becoming more important, it's because they place a high value on the CBB's expertise in that destination and the connections that they have within that destination. And when I spoke with these meeting planners in their in-depth interviews, that information overload was actually why they felt that CBBs were going to become more important, because they see that CBBs would help them save time and do their job better by being able to curate and distill the most important information to these meeting planners without the meeting planner having to invest that time and do that work. So here's some quotes for you to help understand the sentiments behind why so many meeting planners feel that the CBB will be more important to the meetings industry in the future. All right, so we came up with this DMO Meeting Planner Engagement Index, and as we continue to do this research every year, this is one of the key things that we'll be tracking as a benchmark of how well meeting planners are engaged with the DMO industry overall. So it's a composite index that we came up with, and it's based on 3 survey questions, which again we'll ask every year that we do this research, and they're equally weighted, and it's a 100-point scale. So a meeting planner that received a score of 100 is completely engaged with the CBB, and someone that got a 0 would be completely disengaged. And we use the 3 questions: the DMO resources being used, the number of DMOs that they use, and the importance that they place on DMOs as the components comprising the score and the index. So overall, in 2017, the score was on average 50.5 on this 100-point scale in terms of meeting planner engagement with DMOs. And if we look by meeting planner type, our association planners are the most engaged, and our corporate planners the least. So we have the most opportunity with corporate planners to get them engaged with CBBs. But of course, across all types of planners, we want those numbers to go up. And so finally, innovation in the meeting space that meeting planners see that DMOs can have a role in. We asked them to think about innovation in the meetings market and what would be the single most valuable new service DMOs could provide to meeting planners. And this was an open-ended question. But the most common response was that CBBs needed to just keep improving on their core focus, which was their destination expertise. But still, lots of suggestions on how CBBs could help meeting planners with innovations around their marketing tools, the social media support services they can provide, lots of suggestions around apps, specifically custom destination apps. And so here's some quotes, because we did hear, or apps did come up quite a bit. Over 1 in 10 planners said that CBBs could develop destination-specific apps, which would really help them. And also other things they said: virtual tours or virtual fam trips, social media, RFP tracking systems, access to destination-specific speakers. Again, probably things that many CBBs are providing right now, but meeting planners are not aware that you do provide those. And so that's why that's their response to the question around innovation. So our 2018 edition of this research will be available this spring. You have the opportunity, those of you joining us from the DMO side, you have the opportunity to be part of this research. We have 20 spots available for DMOs to participate as a co-op partner in this research. And that means that their destination will be tracked in it. And so what you get from that is the perceived destination popularity of your destination with attendees and clients, expectations for holding a successful meeting in your destination, how meeting planners rate your DMO and your DMO services, how they rate your hotel product, the financial favorability they expect in your destination, and more. And you'll also be included in the qualitative research that we do in terms of these interviews from meeting planners. And the cost to be one of these participating partners in the research is $5,000. So thank you, and I will pass it off now back to Chris. And go ahead and type any questions that you have in the question box, and we will get to them at the end.
Thanks a lot, Erin. Yeah, let me just double check. I have collapsed my little side panel. So just to highlight, I know the side panel obscured, I think, the information on where to find both the research report, so there's a 42-page summary, the slides from today, and some other resources. So myself and Randy just wanted to really round out this webinar by highlighting a couple of sort of key areas to think about. One is that all this takes place in the context of significant change and disruption in the meeting space. We've identified really three major trends that are sort of impacting meetings at all levels and all types. Just picking up on three of them, and you saw these come through in the research quite clearly, the whole sort of concept that planners are looking for curated, customized, and personalized information from DMOs, destinations. That high tech is, of course, rising, so whether it's people connecting remotely, using new technology in this sort of world of technology, high touch, so personalized customer service and the ability to connect in person at events and through marketing is going to become arguably even more important. And then third and finally, that we're in a meetings market that arguably has a stronger and more positive outlook than we've had for some time, certainly coming out of the GFC, the economy both in Europe, the United States, South Pacific remains positive. Corporate earnings are at record highs, and the meeting space in general is reasonably robust. So a good time to be looking at investing in the future to tackle with some of these sort of changes. So we've distilled down, picking up on the concept that Erin was just talking about innovation, 5 areas and 6 CBeebies who are innovating in the meetings and convention space. So that includes CBBs such as Austin and Memphis, both of whom we work with, who are doing interesting things in how they present and curate content on their destinations, and picking up on this theme of high tech and high touch, so deep, rich content and the ability to offer personalized service. We also have a look around the world. Vienna is doing some very interesting things, not only in another theme that we've highlighted, sustainability and green meetings, but in terms of offering some new and unique spaces and venues. And then third and sort of finally, out of there's 5 trends overall, but the third one I just wanted to highlight was what's happening in sort of new technology and immersive content. And then in general, DMOs and CBBs have been relatively slow to move in this space, and we highlight some of the reasons for that and also some of the opportunities. So take a look at that blog, and welcome any comments and suggestions on others. We'll be planning to add to that gallery of CBB innovators as we move forward. So Randy, what would be the sort of key takeaways you think destinations should be thinking about, and what are the sort of key points in terms of the next steps on research that you'd be hoping we see to build on the great work that's already been done?
from a takeaway perspective, I would say what kind of stood out when we looked through this research was really the meeting segment in general has been in a nearly constant state of disruption for more than a decade. We saw a lot of that disruption start with CVent when they completely disrupted the RFP process. We saw OTAs disrupt the room block model, and then we're seeing Airbnb kind of further disrupt that room block model. And then if you think through the research where Erin highlighted hotel rate sensitivity, that could definitely play out in the Airbnb space where planners are seeing that become more relevant in the process going forward. I think millennials have disrupted first as attendees and then again as planners because their career roots were never planted in this more traditional media, but rather always in a more highly fragmented landscape. So overwhelmingly, I think what we saw happen through this research is that CBeebies haven't necessarily evolved at the same rate, which is causing a disconnect in how incredibly relevant they are to the process, especially where services are concerned and maybe they're not as well known. And then services themselves being another key takeaway where attendee satisfaction is such a metric for success, and services really have a big ability to impact and influence that. So we would look for that to be played out more in just the overall marketing efforts going forward, I think, so that planners become more and more aware of how this could help what they're measuring success on. For the second half of the research, or second phase of the research rather, I think what we're going to look to do is certainly build on what we learned in this first phase and then overlay more of a destination participation so that we can really identify the gaps where what we think the planners know about destinations and what the planners are telling us they know about destinations, including tools and the CBBs and services. We'll hopefully identify that a little better as we move into the next phase of this. And as Erin mentioned, there's a great opportunity to co-op into this for some research and customized questions and reporting about your destination. So that would be certainly something that we would encourage you to take part in. I do believe there is a limited number, 20, I think Erin said. So certainly reach out to Erin, reach out to me if that's something that you're interested in, and we'd love to give you more on that.
Okay, and again, there's those web addresses for picking up the research from today. We have got an upcoming webinar. So again, working with our very good friends at Destination Analysts, Dave, Erin, and the team there. They do 4 quarterly editions of the State of the American Traveller, one of the leading research studies on the American traveller. It's been going for over a decade. We've been involved since pretty much the start, and I think everybody's familiar. We run quarterly webinars. So the Destinations edition is of particular interest to DMOs, and you can see that's coming up on March 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time in the US. And we'll be sending a registration link in the follow-up email. And just a couple of blogs I wanted to highlight. So we put together some interesting marketing resolutions for the new year, some critical areas to think about in 2018, and also a wonderful study, the biggest ever multi-destination website conversion study ever undertaken. Again, working with Destination Analysts, we pulled together 5 insights, truly a groundbreaking study, and some of the key insights from that major look at how websites from destinations impact and influence travel. So we've just got a few minutes left, and I'll just open up the question pane. I know we already had a couple. So Sue is asking Erin and Randy, if you had to, there's a lot of information there, if we have to prioritize one thing, what do you think a destination CBB should be focused on as an outcome from what we've seen today?
I think it was clear, this is Erin speaking, I think it was clear that there needs to be a thinking about services and sales together. And that really educating meeting planners about the the services that CBBs provide just is like a longer part of the overall sales cycle. It can really help, resell and get people, the meeting planners back. And then it also, I think it just helps the industry overall, the CBB industry overall, because the more meeting planners have specific awareness of how much CBBs can do for them.
Okay, and Randy, your comments? Oh, and by the way, we've had several people ask again to look at that web address. So just while Randy's answering that, I'll go back to so you can see the web address for where the research slides, etc., are available. Randy?
I would agree entirely with what Erin said. I think the one thing I would maybe call out in that is some of the lesser known services that we're seeing here. So where you can be not just a destination expert as it pertains to attendee satisfaction, if you consider it like in a leisure sense, but rather also the type of resources you have available to you, if it's speakers, if it's, just destination insights as far as how the community works, what you can do that they couldn't do on their own, really kind of highlighting your intellectual capital in that regard, I think is something that is relevant and absolutely necessary at this stage.
And I'll add on to that. I hope that people don't walk away thinking that, it just continue to always do the same things. I think what came out of the research too was, so you saw how many meeting planners said that the CBB website was an important piece for them in their destination research process. So many of them were looking, for digital marketing assets to help support their meeting from the CBB. Innovation of social media support came up. So the things that have been done traditionally are certainly important. That was clear in the research, but looking in more progressive, I would say, digital ways to service and sell to meeting planners is important.
Very good. And let's just pick up on one final question, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Randy, perhaps you want to take this first. So, this is a question from Laurie. Greetings, Laurie. Do you anticipate DMOs getting into the DMC business?
I think it probably depends really heavily on the type of planner you're working with and then also the type of destination you are. I think in some regards that could be really relevant and useful, but the DMC service is, it does have quite a few differences in what a DMO does, and so I don't see it being overwhelmingly what will take over, but I do see where that could be useful.
Very good. Okay, so thanks again to everybody. We will be sending out an email with all the links, these references, a link to the blog, for example, and the contact information if you're interested in the 2018 research. Thanks to everybody who joined us today. Thanks to Erin and the team at Destination Analysts. Thanks to Destinations International. And thanks to Randy. So everybody have a wonderful day or evening or morning wherever you are, and we look forward to connecting soon. Thanks again.